Hey, welcome, jerks. Little impromptu show. I want to thank Canton Community Television for the video that we're going to play tonight, as well as Elise. Elise posted the Canton Community Voices some video from September 13th of 2022, a couple of years ago here. What's that? 2.5 years ago, all right? No, 3.5. We're in 25. Yeah, no, it's 2.5. That would be, all right. So basically 2.25 years ago. Not very precise, but around that time, a little more than 2 years ago. This is from a Canton Select Board. I wanted to talk because John Connolly is running for re-election again. He's somebody that, like Michael Morrissey, probably should have been term limited many years ago. But here he is in September of 2022. Video that we're going to play. It's not that spicy or controversial, but I think it's worth watching. It's worth remembering who this guy is, what he's about, how he acts in public. And I'm going to just play it, maybe make some commentary. I'm going to step out in a minute, actually. If anyone in the chat is new and wants to know what's going on, please just let them know. But this is basically from September of 2022. And this is with Lisa Lopez. You're going to see the select board member, the strong woman attorney, who has been on boards for the town of Canton for decades. Very well qualified, very strong, very reasonable. Lisa Lopez, you can just watch her. She is a good public servant. And you could see that John Connolly is really mad at her. And this is the woman that lost her reelection to Chris Albert. This is what Canton chose over someone with lots of experience, a resume, an attorney, a serious person, versus Chris Albert, guy who makes pizzas. They chose Chris Albert. A lot of people say they didn't know, they weren't aware, they weren't focusing. I think a lot of Canton residents are more focused right now. And Chris, this gentleman, this John Connolly, is up for re-election. And he has a new opponent. She's a veterinarian, Susan Harrington. So we figured we'd play this video because a Canton resident made us notice it today on one of the group message boards on Facebook that they have. And what you see is basically the Canton Select Board chose not to give a raise to somebody that they should have probably given a raise to. And it ended up gumming up the works. And this board made a decision to do the right thing and not string people along, to basically put a pause on things until they had someone to the most important position to replace for these projects to go forward, for them to take bids and proposals for them. And you're going to see two lawyers. One is Lisa Lopez, who is on the select board at this point. And you're going to also see John Como's serious brother, George Como, who's also on a lot of boards. He's also an attorney. And just listen to the way that they talk to each other and how good Lisa and George especially are. George basically gets up there. They're giving them bullshit, saying, you didn't notify us. You didn't do it in writing. George Como's sitting there saying, well, I was the one who called you over and over and over again, and none of you jerks except Tom Theodore would return my call. And what you're going to see is that John, who is running for re-election again, John Connolly, stated after he's given him crap that they didn't put it in writing, that he wouldn't call George back because he was so angry. He was afraid of what he was going to say. He was so mad. This is a public servant not doing the work of the position because he can't control his emotions, because he's looking at everything through politics. And this isn't about politics. It was about moving forward. And this is what's wrong with Canton. This is the perfect example of why John Connolly, in my opinion, needs to go. And it's sad to say because the guy has a lot of institutional knowledge. He's got a lot of relationships. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of these politicians get reelected, because there is a certain value in that. But he doesn't know when to stop playing politics and put the good of the town before him. And this is a perfect example. I'm going to play it. I want you to hear it. Watch carefully. Tonight, there's also a great show happening at 7 p.m. LTL Media with Only Nan, the attorney. Her first appearance on LTL Media with Ryan tonight at 7 p.m. I want you to make sure you check that out after this is over. I'm going to try to do a hard stop at 7 and redirect everyone over there tonight. So definitely make sure you check that out and schedule accordingly. 7 p.m. Brian, LTL Media tonight. And Thursday night, Mazza Media. He's doing his big fundraiser for the Super Bowl. A big, let me restate that. He's doing a big Super Bowl show, but it's a fundraiser for Karen Reed. That's the correct way to say it. Thank you. All right, so let's play this. I want to thank both those guys for being on the show last night. It was a great show with them last night. Let's play this audio. I'm going to step out for a minute. I'll be back. And I'll definitely be commenting on a lot of what goes on here.
Next on the agenda is the discussion for the CPC committee.
Yes, Ms. Lopez, as our representative, this was brought up last week, and we had some concerns, and I know every member of this board has got some calls from residents about an August 15th meeting that the CPC had about not going ahead with funding of CPC articles for this town meeting. It just we know really nothing about it. If you could update us and what's the reason and what's going on and the rationale, if you could.
Sure, and I'd like to put it in the context of the purpose of the agenda item, I think a week ago that I missed, and that was to hire, finally, a CPA administrator as staff support for the committee. I think this select board is aware that the committee has had no staff support for many months now. Plan A was when the committee learned that the long-term, very highly regarded CPA administrator had been offered a job, same job in a neighboring community at about a 30% higher salary. Plan A was to get her to stay by being able to renegotiate her compensation. That was not successful, and so Plan B was to try to renegotiate a job description that reflected the current market rates and the current responsibilities of this position versus the job description that had been created in 2013. That ended in a 3-2 vote at this board at the end of March. Plan C was, after consultation with the state coalition, CPA, as to how best to attract a qualified candidate, the suggestion was perhaps to combine this part-time position with the part-time housing coordinator position that the Housing Trust was pursuing at town meeting. The housing trustees considered that to be a very worthwhile strategy. And so we waited, wanting to make sure that the town meeting would approve that part-time position. It did. The housing trustees met, some of us are both trustees, housing trustees, as well as CCPC members, brought it to the CCPC, and the consensus was that the better approach would be not to wait to try to find someone who could fulfill both the housing coordinator and the CP administrator, but to try to find somebody who actually fit the job specs. I don't know whether, Ms. Middleton is here, and she was instrumental in posting the position for the job specs that had been approved by the select board. And unfortunately, there were no candidates who met the job specs, and the search committee decided to interview candidates who were nevertheless ones we thought who had transferable skills. And we went to, we interviewed them, we made a recommendation, unanimously agreed by the search committee, went to the committee and said, even though this will not be a subject matter expert in CPA, and does not have some of the, I'm going to say accounting-related kinds of experiences that we thought would be important, we nevertheless think that this is a candidate who is essentially teachable. I don't want to disparage what that means, but we thought she had transferable skills. That was in the beginning of August, and the decision was made at a CPC meeting in mid-August that given the time that had elapsed with no administrative support whatsoever, no program management support, we simply could not act prudently in the best interests of the town to sort of hurry up and try to manage a grant round. And indeed, sitting here today, we still don't have the staff support. And in the ordinary course of the calendar, pre-apps would be, I mean, the communication with the community would be sometime during the summer. Pre-apps would be due the first week of October. The first week of October is in a couple of weeks. And I'm hoping that this committee will consider actually making the formal appointment today. But we are starting from scratch. We're sort of back. We had a subject matter expert who was regarded by the state coalition director as one of the best in the state. She had institutional knowledge. She had subject matter expertise. She sort of ran the program. We are now starting from scratch, and we have a whole lot of catch-up to do. Just in terms of, you mentioned that the committee hadn't, this board hadn't heard about it. Just to be utterly transparent, our meeting was, I believe, on the 15th. The next day, I left the country to go to a wedding. One member of the committee volunteered to contact and just reach out to the select board, just as a courtesy, heads up, because, you know, it's not that the select board can influence or makes the decision, but it's a courtesy. And another member of the committee volunteered to reach out to Mr. Scollins, which I believe he did. In the interim, while I was out of the country, as you know, my father passed away, and so I missed the October or the August 30th select board meeting, and I regret, for a lot of reasons, what happened, but also because it resulted in continuing to sort of not be able to fill a position. You may ask, well, what is the person going to do that hopefully will be hired very soon? Number one objective is absolutely to learn CPA law regulations. I mean, it's a statute that is technical and requires some expertise and training, as well as the Canton bylaw policies and procedures. Number two, we have about 25 open projects from years past, some dating from 4 years ago, each of which have to be examined to determine their status. Are they likely to close? Are they not? Is money coming back? You know, as an example, the pickleball courts, money is going to come back. Some projects were delayed because of COVID and supply chain management issues, and so there may need to be more money associated with any of those projects. Each one of those couple of dozen projects need to be evaluated separately to understand how much money is coming back. And then this person has got to really get up to speed in CPA project accounting, as well as the municipal finance accounting, different systems, because we're talking about, to date, we have awarded over $7.5 million in project funding, including the Revere property that was bonded. So there are millions of dollars that need to be accounted for very, very carefully to be sure that when we go to town meeting next spring, and we will be obliged to do that, we have the precise numbers that say, this is the amount coming in, this is the percentage that has to be allocated to each one of the category buckets, And this is the amount ultimately that will be available for future spending recommendations to be approved by town meeting. And then the other big nut to crack is we are statutorily obliged to have a community preservation plan based on community input. Last year, we devoted an enormous amount of time to community engagement with forums, interviews, focus groups, and the data from 1,000 surveys across the community. None of that has been integrated into the community preservation plan that has got to be created, finalized, vetted, approved by the committee, and then presented to the town, ultimately as guidance for future project sponsors, because we always these days tend to get more project applications than is available money, and so this gives some guidance to the community wants to see the money spent in these directions. So that is a very, very long-winded answer to the question of where we are. There was considerable debate.
Just want to stop it there. It's a great answer. She's fact-based. She's right to the point. This woman knows what she's doing. And these boobs, look at them. Look at these dudes. Look at the John Connolly right in the center. Look at these boobs. Bunch of...
At the committee level about this decision. I can tell you that over the last 10 years, there have been 5 committee chairs who have a deep understanding of the heavy lift required to manage this program. And each of the past 5 committee chairs was united in the agreement that given the fact that we still have no municipal staff, that it would be reckless and imprudent to do anything other than pause and catch up and make sure that we really understand where the projects are, we really understand how much money we've got coming in, and ultimately is available to recommend to town meeting for spending. But we got to get going on this process of getting a person. She may not be ideal in terms of experiences. The CPA has been around in Massachusetts for over 20 years. More than half cities and towns in the Commonwealth, have adopted CPA. So we were hoping that there would be candidates that actually had this experience. Unfortunately, none presented themselves. So we are where we are, and the committee, takes very, very seriously its responsibilities. I am delighted to say that, 10 years ago, some of us may remember that it was not a slam dunk that this community was going to approve CPA. It took 3 tries. And there were a lot of naysayers, particularly on leadership. And 10 years later, I think CPA is widely embraced as a tremendous asset. There's probably been about 60 projects, as I said, over $7.5 million spent for the community, and all of the continued monies that come in will be set aside, protected, and available for projects which, I hate to say it, but as a consequence of COVID and supply chain management issues, got a whole lot more expensive in the last 18 months or so. So we're going to be in a very good position this time next year. So I know that the candidate's application and resume were included in the materials for tonight, and I'm hoping that this is enough of an explanation and context to give you comfort to go ahead and make that formal appointment.
Thank you. Mr. Locken.
Mr. Chairman, so a few points. I watched the August 15th meeting, and it was mentioned and confirmed a couple of times that the idea of not taking applications for this coming year had been discussed as early as June. And although I didn't watch the June meeting, I haven't had time to confirm that. Nobody in the August 15th meeting disputed that and said, though, that's not true. So it sounds like that this is being discussed among the Community Preservation Committee earlier than just August. I asked that we put this particular item on hold at the last meeting because you weren't here, and I wanted to hear your opinion on why are we hiring somebody if they're not capable to take these applications and run with them. So I know you said that, you know, this person is coming in cold and they don't have the experience, but there are many members of the Community Preservation Committee that have been there since the beginning, and they can help get this person up. And I understand there were other committee members who would say, you know, let's take the applications and I'll help to onboard this person. You bring up COVID and supply chain. I wholeheartedly agree with you. We have youth organizations, departments in this town, the schools that rely on this community preservation fund to help get projects done that aren't currently in their budget cycle. And some of it might be because, hey, this project that we were doing in another, budget issue, the cost of it has gone up. I mean, we had to allocate funds for the, at Memorial Field, the bleachers. So I think that this is absolutely important that we take applications this coming year. And if this isn't the right candidate,
This is such a great point that you made. And not only that, I'm just watching earlier when there were speakers, town workers and community members. You'll even see later when George gets to the mic, maybe. But Lisa, this select board member, Lisa Lopez, you know why I know she's good at this? Because of her body posture. And look at her right now. What is she doing? She's looking right at Mike Laughlin. If there's a speaker in the audience, she leans in towards them and listens and looks at them. It was so, for me, because I've been watching all these Canton Select Board meetings for 2 years now, right? And to me, it was so jarring because I wasn't used to having a Select Board member be so engaged. And this is who they decided not to take back, and they replaced her with Chris Albert. It's just shocking. It's a very good comment. Watch the body language on all these people. Always, 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 especially when they have speakers, especially when they have community members speaking, and how it changes depending on who's actually doing the speaking.
then why are we approving her? And if you think she can be the right candidate, then take the applications and let's onboard her. And at the very least, if we get to this point where, like, we're not going to be able to do this, then hold off on
She got
recommending those
voted out.
applications. But
They decided
there
to
is
elect
still
Chris
plenty of
Albert
time.
instead.
I mean, I know it doesn't meet the calendar of previous years, but the warrant is like March 8th. It's 6 months. Advertise, take the applications, and get this person up to speed.
May I respond?
Sure.
Yeah, with respect, the work to be done is not work that can be easily distributed among 9 volunteer committee members, all with very busy personal and professional lives. Or none of the 9 have stepped up and said, I'll volunteer my time to essentially do this work. Think about if the Conservation Commission all of a sudden had no conservation agent, or the Health Department had no health agent. There would be a recognition that certain things have to stop. Has it been previously discussed as a possibility at the committee level? Sure. And we had hoped that, notwithstanding the inability to offer a compensation that we felt was market, we might get a candidate who actually came with the subject matter expertise. We did not. It's a very tough hiring environment.
I'm sorry, wasn't there another candidate that was involved with the CPC in another town?
She had actually been on the committee, but she didn't have the kind of, she didn't have other experiences or skills. I mean, I don't want to get too much into the particular candidates that suggested to any of the search committee members that it would make sense to give her this position, and she had a full-time position that she wasn't willing to walk away from, which was also sort of a deal breaker. I mean, this is a position who is the gatekeeper for very fundamental work that, again, no one of the 9-person volunteers has been willing to step up and say, well, I'll do it, I'll take it on. And it is respectfully the province of the Community Preservation Committee, which is an independent body by statute, by town bylaw, that is charged with making the decision based on its information.
What's John Connolly looking at right now?
I suppose, other boards and committees.
Not
or members of
Lisa.
the public can second guess that decision.
Is he
but it was a
yawning?
decision
You're yawning, John?
Taken very thoughtfully.
You sleepy
in
time,
good
John?
faith,
Maybe you
with
need to
full
retire.
Recognition
Picking his
that
nose?
it was the best under difficult circumstances.
Unbelievable.
And let me assure you, there's a lot of work to be done in just dealing with the 25 or so outstanding projects by some of these same project sponsors, some of which we believe hasn't even begun. So, we, the town, as well as the committee, as well as the past project sponsors, will have their hands full in putting this time to very, very good use.
So,
And just one further thought, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's all right.
If the board chooses not to approve the candidate, all that does is further delay the work that needs to be done without any prospect that there is a near-term candidate in the wing.
So this community preservation group that the board has all volunteers basically voted to pause any new bids and proposals because they don't have the staff. They don't have a person to actually deal with all the proposals they already have in the pipeline. And this select board wants to turn around and blame the board instead of actually taking action. And then they want to cry that it's politics. This is all politics. This is why these men are playing politics. Look at Conley's face right now. Does that look like a man that's engaged, looking to solve the problem? This Lisa woman is basically looking at the camera at this point because she knows none of them, except for Tom Theodore is the only one right now on the screen you can see that has any type of eyes towards her. Laughrin is kind of engaging her, but look at his body, slouched and looking down. The big boy, John Connolly, up for re-election, looking straight ahead when he's not picking his nose. This guy, who's not on the board anymore, he's also looking down.
Things that's going to come in and rescue, this situation because they really understand and can just seamlessly, take over program management. I wish I could say that person exists, but we haven't been able to recruit them. The HR director may have some perspective on this, but she's been diligently trying.
so I was one of the
Yes, this is the current board that Chris Albert is part of, the select board. But this is from September 13th, 2022. We're reviewing audio from a couple of years ago, video from a couple of years ago, showing how John Connolly acts and how he handles situations when he's mad. He's mad. He's going to make a big stink about it. He's going to complain that they didn't put something in writing to him, a bunch of volunteers, when their representative has been calling him over and over again, and the dude doesn't call him back. And John's going to admit at this meeting the reason he didn't call them back is because he was so mad. He couldn't control his emotions. And so I felt like we should review this. This was a Canton citizen posted this today on one of the group boards, the Canton Community Voices Facebook group, Elise, and I liked it, and I think it's a good video to play so that people could see what's been going on in Canton even before this Karen Reed stuff. This Lisa Lopez, she's still on some town boards. I believe she won a housing board position in the most recent election, but she serves on board. She's an attorney. She's a serious person committed to Canton. These folks, I don't know what the hell they're doing. The rest of them. This is John Connolly, who needs to resign. He's running for re-election. He needs to resign. And if he won't, the voters need to resign him. So let's play this. Let's see how John Connolly treats this woman, this town select board member at the time, Lisa Lopez, who was awesome, who's an attorney. She lost her reelection against Chris Albert. They replaced this awesome woman, the voters in Canton, with Chris Albert. You replace a lawyer, an attorney, a serious person on all these boards for years with someone who has no experience, who lied a lot about his background. And I say he lied by omission because he didn't tell people that he owed all the money, that he doesn't pay his taxes. He didn't tell people that he had killed somebody, vehicular homicide, drunk driving, whatever you call it, and left the scene and turned himself in, 24, 48 hours, whatever later he turned himself in. He didn't tell that story. He didn't say, oh, I'm redeemed. I'm a pizza guy now. I came from, no, he didn't tell that story. He omitted it. And this is who they put on the board, Chris Albert over her, the voters. So this time, the voters need to be engaged and knowledgeable about who they're voting for. They have someone right here. They have somebody right here. They can either reelect elect a veterinarian, a woman that's got professional experience for a long time, Susan Harrington, or they can reelect John Connolly, who plays politics, who's rude, who doesn't look at people when they're speaking, doesn't have any engagement, who doesn't return calls when he's mad to town board members, and then gets mad that they haven't done it in writing when they try to call him and fill him in.
Negating votes for changing the job description for the existing administrator. And the reason was, that process went on quite a bit, and Mr. Aspinwall and our HR director, Ms. Middleton, spent probably more time researching that particular job description and whether or not it met the criteria than many other job descriptions. There are plenty of towns that have accepted community preservation that manage the entire program without an administrative support person. So I feel that there is plenty of expertise on that board. I have heard that there are members who were willing to help onboard this person. I think it's a mistake to not take applications. I agree with you that if we don't approve this person, this further delays it. But
I love this for you, Mike. You know more about the board's capabilities than the board itself, and you're not on the board. That's what you're saying, Mike. You know more about their availability and what they're willing to do and their expertise than the board themselves. And you just admitted a couple minutes ago that you didn't watch the June board meeting. So how much do you really know? Mike, I think that you should come over here and wash my car, Mike, for free. I think you should shovel my driveway, Mike. I mean, that's basically what you're saying. You're saying, you know what? Volunteers have to do this complicated legal work that they're not probably even qualified for. They need to spend the hours doing it. When the board has decided that they need somebody to do the work that's qualified, they need an employee. You're talking about millions of dollars. It's funny how quickly these same jokers offered, what was it, 60? I don't even know. There was an amount of money that they spent to give this audit committee chair a secretary. They gave Bob, that clown, that joker, that Bob, the loudmouth. They hired him apparently an aide, a secretary, to do the police audit that we haven't heard a goddamn thing about since. What is she doing? Or he, whoever they hired, what are they doing? Because we don't have no communication about the police audit. We haven't heard a thing about it until, since Rita talked about it on the show. Rita has done more to inform the public about the police audit than anyone that you've actually spent money on. You spent money on a police audit that's a one-time deal. But you were blocking, you were trying to block money going to the CPA where you're talking millions of dollars. Millions. And it's a long-term thing. There's lots of projects, not just one You gave money for one project to help Bob out because he couldn't handle the volunteer work. And you put him there, Mike. You friggin' put that guy there. You're a friggin' joke, all of you, except Lisa.
I think that the community preservation is not even trying.
No, you're
Take
not
the
trying, Mike.
applications
You're a
and See
joke.
if this person can do it. When the community preservation was accepted in Canton 10 years ago, we were all new at this. And the previous support person came in cold and figured it out and was a superstar. Absolutely. But this new
So you
person
had a
could
support
also be a
person back then, Mike.
superstar.
So
why
now
are
you
we
don't,
not
and now you're trying to
taking the
not.
application?
You're a joke, Mike. You are a friggin' joke. You're a joke. Absolute joke. You hired someone for the police audit to run the committee on the police audit. You paid money for that. A one-time deal that's already basically over, but we don't even know what's going on because whoever you hired isn't doing their job because we don't know what's going on with the police audit. People ask me every single day, what's going on with the police audit? They're in my chat right now. You paid money for that. That didn't need it. Rita would have done that. And could have done it easily. This is many project, Community Preservation Act. This is a state, national, or whatever it is. There's many guidelines, many legalities, many things to consider. 25 proposals already in the pipeline, whatever. They're going to be more. This is a lot of work. And you're trying to make volunteers do it who already said no. They said we can't do it. And you're sitting there lecturing them. Mike, why aren't you coming to shovel my... I need you over here right now, Mike. I need you over here Thursday night. That's when we take out the trash, Mike, and my neighbor's trash, since I do it for them, too. I got some dogs for you to walk, Mike. All for free. I want you to do this work for me for free, Mike. Mike Loughran. Friggin' joke. Idiot.
Why are we turning our back on youth organizations and town departments and open space and holding on to this money that the town desperately needs to allocate?
Again, the committee feels strongly that it's not turning its back. It's acting responsibly and prudently. Years ago, when the committee first started, there were a handful of projects and significantly less money at stake. All these years later, there are dozens and dozens of projects that need to be reviewed, evaluated, managed, and there are millions of dollars at stake. We have a comprehensive program. I would challenge that there is any community that has a program similar to ours with no paid staff. I just, with respect, don't believe that exists. And there are, frankly, number of communities who just decide that they're not going to have grant rounds for a certain period of time because they want to build up the bank in order to use the funds for a sort of a big bang kind of purpose that the community really...
All right, turn my mic down a little bit to try to match. I got a little fired up. I don't think I'm going to be that fired up throughout the whole thing, but it's just ridiculous. Is my sound any better compared to... I know a lot of people turn it way up in the car or the TV, and so it can be glaring when I'm a lot louder than the audio. I have the audio turned up as much as possible from this. Let me know if it's any better right now, if I need to turn my mic down a little more.
Desires. So there are different communities that have taken different approaches. I think for a community of our size, we've accomplished incredible things. And we have every expectation that that will continue. It's unfortunate that the gap in administrative staff happened during this period of time. That makes it very, very difficult to prepare to sort of get the word out, ask people and organizations to spend what is a significant amount of time in preparing both pre-apps and full applications. And we just don't have the infrastructure to be able to deal with it.
If, excuse me for one second, if
I'm sorry, I
applications
blew
do
your
come
ears
in and
out.
you don't have the time to do them, can you basically not just approve any of them? You know what I'm saying? Say, we got to hold this over, we're too backlogged to continue with this forward? Or?
Well, I don't want to answer on behalf of the committee, and I'm not even the chair of the committee. The committee chairs are Sean Chu and John McSweeney. So I want to be very careful about reporting what the committee has done and deliberated on and not speak for the committee. But if you're asking whether or not it is possible, theoretically possible, for applications to come in and the committee then to respond and saying, all these applications have come in, but we can't deal with them, so we'll put them on hold for a year, I would say that's theoretically possible. I'd say that that was not a great approach for this reason. A critical piece of information in every application is the budget. Years ago, we didn't know what we didn't know, and we accepted applications that were woefully deficient in budget assumptions. And we have a much better appreciation of what is needed today, but if budgets are a year old or 18 months old, they are almost by definition out of date.
Oh my God. Look. Connolly finally looked at her. Sort of. He's still not really looking at her, but he kind of turned his head towards her. Holy shit. John Connolly. Wow. You finally turned your head towards her. When she told some truth, she dropped some bombs here.
So taking an application with budget assumptions today and then saying, we're just going to put it on the back shelf and we'll get around to it next year, I mean, they'd have to sort of redo their whole budget application. And since by definition what the committee does is look at a full range of applications that are competing for usually.
Now, it's funny. Theodore on the left of the screen is now looking down at his notes, but he's the only one of the three of them that has been looking at her, giving her any type of eye contact. It's unbelievable how friggin' rude these people are to their own members.
Fewer dollars than are available to be spent. You know, the accuracy and completeness of those budget numbers is really, really important, as well as the technical eligibility of the use of the funds for the projects, which is part of the vetting, which is what the administrator does as gatekeeper. Sometimes a part of the project is eligible, other parts are not, and there's conversations with legal counsel that go back and forth, with the CPA statewide coalition that go back and forth. It is a process,
Mr. Conley?
Yep, I have, I'm just trying to simplify this. So the administrative.
Before I get to, I just posted this comment. I would ask the Canton residents that know where those are to hit me up. Tell me where those are, because I need dates, times, all that stuff. So if you have that, find me on Twitter or Facebook and send it over at the Young Jerks. Or you can also hit me at mjcboston1@gmail.com. No, actually, let's do it Yahoo. MJ like Joseph, MJC like Crawford. MJC Boston #1, MJCBoston1 at yahoo.com. MJCBoston1 at yahoo.com.
The position, it's an administrative position, my understanding, and it's about 50 hours a month. So it's not full-time, it's not all consuming, it's 50 hours a month, and it's an administrative position. Your committee voted not to accept any more applications and not to make any recommendations to town meeting, putting off a full year of funding for valuable projects, because the committee feels this administrative position is so technically demanding that it requires 12 months of onboarding. So I'm a little confused by that rationale. You did mention that the statute is technical. I have it in front of me. There's lots of shalls in there, which usually means mandatory. Some of us are elected, some of us are appointed. We all have our jobs to do. And the statute says you shall study the needs of the community and you shall make recommendations. So I'm just confused how your committee can ignore the statute like that.
Okay, if I can
And-
respond.
Well,
Go ahead, I'm
no,
sorry,
no,
let me
finish.
let you finish.
So I know there's 3 lawyers on your committee. Did anyone, oh, 4, sorry. Did anyone read the statute? I mean, shall means mandatory. You've essentially said, we're not going to do our job.
Look at this guy, basically attacking them, basically attacking this volunteer board who was doing their job 100%. But he's going to make statements and pretend that they weren't doing what they were supposed to do.
We're not going to do anything for a year because this position, this administrative position is so important that we can't do any work for the next year or so. So I think that's where we're a little bit baffled by the committee's vote, and that's why we put off on appointing a person, because if the position is so important that you can't do your job for a year, why are we going to hire someone, in your words?
So there's an issue. They don't have the person. The select board puts off hiring a person, and now they're blaming it on the volunteer board who has no budgeting or spending authority. I mean, this is like, these guys are, I don't want to get all riled up again. This is ridiculous. You guys aren't doing your job. The dude talking right now hasn't done his job, and now he's trying to say it's the volunteers. It's this volunteer board that doesn't have the power to hire.
Who's essentially teachable, but may not be ideal. So I think the reckless and imprudent thing is what your committee
You're
did,
reckless,
in voting
clown.
to not take any applications and not make any recommendations to town meeting.
Well, I appreciate
I think it's
that,
reckless not hiring
statement.
somebody when you have all these projects and not expediting it and passing the buck and then blaming it on the volunteer board, dude. No wonder why you're not on this board anymore. Jesus.
Is made in good faith. I categorically reject the characterization. Number one, that it's an administrative position. The title may be CPA administrator because we were not able to persuade this board to change the title to what we think the job warrants. But it is the combination of both management as well as administrative duties. It is not a clerical job, and I think some people conflate administrative with clerical. Could not be further from the truth. The hours that are allocated to this position depend entirely on the time of the year. It is a part-time position, but in some months of the year, historically, it's been 20 hours a week, and in other months, many fewer hours. Yes, absolutely. I've read the statute many times. The interpretation, I believe, that is a fair legal interpretation of the statute, gives the committee not only the obligation, which we will do, the committee will satisfy the obligation of going to town meeting, making recommendations as to the allocation of the revenue, as well as giving a report on the community engagement process, which we're also obligated to do, and is very much in process. And so to characterize the committee as somehow abdicating its responsibility and not doing anything for a year could not be further from the truth in my view. I thought I had been clear about what this person needs to devote her time to, which hopefully will not take a year, but will take enough time so that we will miss the schedule that is critical to meet a customary schedule for reviewing applications, which takes an enormous amount of hearing time, and make it to town meeting. I mean, I would challenge any member of the board to actually spend time familiarizing yourself
Yeah,
with
the
what the
know-it-alls.
committee does. I know Mr. Theodore was on the committee for some period of time. I know Mr. Lockwood was on it for a year, perhaps, a number of years ago.
The know-it-alls don't spend any time on it. She just called them out. It's so funny how the people that always have the biggest opinion haven't actually done the work.
I would welcome, and I think the committee would welcome, because it might have, had there been that kind of familiarity, obviated the months of discussion about the nature of this job. In any event, it is what it is. It's the committee has the right to make this decision. A discussion was had that ended in a request by a committee member to actually go to town council and confirm that the committee indeed has the legal right to make the decision, and that request, I believe, will be put to town council and asked for a legal opinion. But what this board can do, I suppose, is to continue to not approve a position. But I'm not sure that that furthers the community objective.
Well, I
Do you
know you're not
see-
speaking for the committee, but is your opinion?
This
that
is like
the CPA
having a park and then not doing any upkeep on the park. It's basically what it is. You got a town park, but we're not going to have any maintenance people mow the lawns. We're not going to have anyone fix the swings when they break. We're not going to have any programs in the park. We're not going to have line the baseball field. We're not going to put up tennis nets during the summer. I mean, this is what you have here. We got a program that affects the whole town, including the schools. It affects everything, community preservation. We have all these projects that are already in the pipeline. We don't even know what the hell's going on with them. And we had to pause the program. We can't take any new applications. The board decided, this community preservation group decided that runs it, that we can't take any new applications because we don't have anyone that's an employee to run the program. And this board, who can actually hire somebody to fix the problem, is complaining. What a bunch of boobs. Hire somebody, idiots.
The committee can refuse to take applications?
It is absolutely my opinion, my legal opinion, that the statute gives the committee absolutely the right to decide in any particular given year that it's going to take a pause on applications. I have 100% confidence in that opinion. It's also my non-legal opinion that it was the prudent, appropriate thing to do in this particular case. Not the only thing, but the decision-making was serious and it was informed, and the committee did what it's supposed to do. It deliberated.
Any questions?
So,
Go ahead, Mike.
Mr. Chairman, I did ask town council to weigh in on this. I don't want to keep pushing this off, but I'd like to have the chair of the community preservation come before this board, because I think they owe us an explanation as to why they were talking about this in June and it was not brought up to us at all. I certainly understand the August issue with travel and Obviously,
Push
the
it down
fire's
the line
passing.
again, Mike. Don't actually
But
take
the
action.
chair
Fix it,
should have
Mike.
reached out at
Mike
the very
Laughlin.
least to our chair to say this is something that's being discussed, so that I wasn't getting phone calls from all the people that support us saying, what is going on with my taxpayer money? The town council has weighed in on this, and to give you a chance and the community preservation to look at that, but town council is saying, in our opinion, the community preservation is required to accept and consider applications for funding projects for fiscal year 2024. So I think that we should push this off until our next meeting.
Push
see
it
if we
off.
can have
Kick the
chair of
can,
community
Mike. Kick the
preservation,
can, Mike Laughlin.
come before us, and I don't want it to feel like we're picking on Ms. Lopez here because she's by herself.
Oh, so you don't
as
want
our
her. Why
select
would
board
she?
member. Never feel-
Why would she feel like you're picking on her, Mike? Because it's four men who have no who are basically useless, blaming her for their inaction. Is that why she would feel like you're picking on her, Mike? That's a funny comment, Mike Laughlin. You know, because you know that's exactly what's going on here, right, Mike Laughlin? And look at her. She is so good. This woman is so poised. She is so spot on the way she handles these clowns. What a jackass. I don't want you to feel like we're picking on you, even though we are. Even though we're blaming you for our inaction. Even though I'm going to continue not to take action, even though I'm going to kick it down the can another month, it's still blame you guys. It's unbelievable. Gaslighting.
Still picked on
No.
by this group.
Yeah, you know why? You know why
but
you
I
can't
think
pick
that
on
there were
her?
still questions
Because
here.
she's not a wimp like you, Mike Laughlin. She's not going to take your shit. That's why you can't pick on her, Mike. You guys intend to pick on her, but she doesn't give a shit. She's not cowed by you. She's not afraid of you. She has much more class, experience, intellect than you. So you can't pick on her, even though you're trying to.
Yeah, that need to be answered. I certainly agree with Ms. Lopez that her belief is they're within their right to not take applications. Town council has an opinion, and I think that we need to.
That's a
sort through
great
that
comment.
before we can-
Pin it on the girl. Is that what they're doing? Yeah. They seem to like to do that in Ken, don't they? Pin it on the girl. Blame it on the girl. Well, she doesn't look like us. She doesn't act like us. She's not as dumb as we are. I mean, that's the same thing as Karen, right? Karen had more class, more intelligence, more professional accolades. Pin it on the girl, but she's just a girl. It's so funny how they underestimate the girls who kick their asses in the end. Because this video shows it all. Lisa, just like Karen, is kicking these clowns' asses. It's exactly what it is. They think that they're winning, but they met their match. These women kick their asses. Just pin it on the girl. You can't pin it on this girl. Lisa Lopez still has her head held high, I guarantee you, around town. These clowns don't. Mike Laughlin's probably like this high, well, like when he walks into the local, bar, he's probably hiding. He's probably got his head down. He goes to eat with his family. That is such a great comment.
Can appoint somebody that may or may not be the right fit, in my opinion. This is one member.
And I watched the meeting of August 15th, and I know the former administrator left in December. I was notified in December that she was going to Norwood unless we made her a department head, basically. Yes, that's true. She wanted to be, and asked Miss Middleton. She wanted to go from $23 an hour to roughly $50 an hour. And we said,
Oh,
no.
how dare Miss Middleton ask for more money based on $50 an hour for this job, part-time? Who gives a shit? Give it to her. You friggin' fool. Look how mad he is. She's asking for $50 an hour. I make $50 an hour walking friggin' dogs, dude. on a slow day. So what are you talking about, you joker? She's managing millions of dollars and she wanted $50 an hour and you're crying about that. Oh, Miss Middleton. How dare that uppity woman? Miss Middleton. You are such a jackass, Conley. You really are. You're a friggin' jackass.
No, we went back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Don't shake your head.
Don't shake your head.
she left.
Don't
And
shake
she-
your head. Listen to this. Are you shitting me? Don't continue to stare ahead and disrespect this woman for the whole meeting, you friggin' jackass, John Connolly. You are such a rude bastard. You really are. Don't shake your head. How dare you? You lazy sack. Miss Middleton wanted $50 an hour. You're a clown. How dare you? Don't shake your head. You're lucky you didn't get two. Seriously. Seriously.
He left in February, and nothing was done. The job description was not approved. And we weren't notified. It sat there and sat there and sat there, and nothing was done to replace the person. You tried to get people, but nothing was done. And then all of a sudden, one member of your committee was telling the committee that person represents that there's going to be, this goes into June, back to June, that they weren't going to fund you, the CPC was not going to fund it. That person told their committee that they were not going to do that. That's terrible. And not let the town know, this board who appoints the CPC, that is just mind-boggling. And it's very disturbing and very upsetting and discouraging.
He's very upset. He's very upset.
We have the taxpayers are calling me and members of the board and saying, what's going on with the CPC money? There are projects that we want to have seen approved. And you're going to sit on now, all you said the big bang for next, not this year, but next year. Is it being all transparent? Is there some project that the CPC is talking about?
Don't shake your
to
head.
fund?
I still can't believe
I'm
you
asking
said
you.
that to her.
No, not, and it's not to my knowledge.
I just want to know, I mean, because you've said, unless we're going to hold money over and have a bigger bankroll next year. Is there something that we're not aware of?
No.
Okay, I just want to know because that's people asking me, why are they not spending the money? Why are they not spending the money? And that's disturbing, because if there is something hiding in the weeds, this board and the town and the taxpayers should know why the money is not being spent. And town council did weigh in and say, you have an obligation.
Dude, she just told you. Were you not listening? Were you not listening? They don't have anyone to oversee it. You haven't hired anyone. And because of COVID and the competition, they're not, even when they hire someone, when they put out a request, they don't get the most experienced candidates that are going to be able to take the job and run with it right away. So they're going to have to train the person. She just told you, dude. Why are you doing this? Why?
Obligation to do this.
This comes as a complete and utter surprise, and I am taken aback that a request was made to town council without giving the committee the courtesy of participating in that communication. So I'd like to see the question asked and the answer and have an opportunity to talk about that. No, there is no hidden agenda about the spending that is anticipated for next year. As many people understand, this is not the committee's spending. It's not the committee's money. It is the town's and town meetings'
Absolutely.
Money to spend.
I requested I asked the town administrator to get a hold of town council. He was in the doctor's office most of the day, and we finally got a response. So that's where that came from. As chairman, that's my responsibility.
Well,
And
and
you
I
can
feel
get a copy of it.
I feel compelled to correct the record here. The previous administrator never asked for $50 an hour. She actually asked for the same kind of essentially 30% raise that the town of Norwood had offered her, which was not remotely close to $50 an hour or a department here. But I think I've
This is unbelievable. So basically, they lost this person because the town was offering more money, and they act like that's out of. Oh, how dare she ask for us to match that money? Well, don't. Then you lose the employee, and now you're stuck here. So basically, this problem created by John Connolly, and now he's complaining at the woman on the board, saying it's her fault, and that it's this other volunteer board, it's their fault. Even though John Connolly, I mean, listen to him. What a jackass. And then Lisa Lopez has to correct the record. It doesn't even sound like it was $50 an hour. Yeah, someone said it's like $33 an hour. So again, this guy is so full of it. And you're going to see again, he claims shit that isn't true. Lisa Lopez has to correct him again. He's either ignorant, which is bad after 20 plus years, or whatever, how many years he's been on the select board, or he's lying. Whichever way it is, it's really not a good look, John, when you misstate facts, because you've been there. You should know these things. So you're either ignorant and that incompetent that you can't keep a grasp of the facts, or you lie to the public right on video. But which is it, John Connolly? And you're trying to bully somebody who's far more of a quality person, quality speaker. She's got her facts together.
said enough to shed light on how the committee went about
Well, I'll say this.
thinking about its duties and
They don't all bully women. They try to bully women. And in this case, they didn't get away with it because this woman kicks their friggin' asses. She does. It's like Karen Reed. They tried to bully Karen Reed. Karen Reed can't be bullied. Karen Reed is like, you could throw the whole state at me. You could throw me all these charges. You're not going to bully me. That's what I love.
obligations. And I think it's entirely appropriate if this board has questions to ask the committee, either the full committee or certainly the committee chairs, to come in and address the questions.
Yeah, she's way smarter than they are.
Is that what the committee wants? The board wants?
I would.
Sure.
I'm a little concerned, like I say, if we do delay this any longer, then we're putting ourselves in a position where we can't act on any of it.
Well, the CPC already voted not to.
See, look at Tom
411.
Theodore. I now I get why John Como says that Tom Theodore wasn't actually that bad until, maybe the last year when he lost his seat, because he's actually trying. You could see he was looking at Lisa Lopez. Now he's like, you know what? Let's actually do something. Let's fix this. And John Connolly wants to play politics. He wants to play, you guys aren't doing what I want. He's being spiteful. This guy Theodore wants to actually do the right thing. Connolly doesn't like that. One of the guys isn't going along with our bully Lisa campaign.
Not to approve anything.
Right,
Correct.
okay, I'm not even, well, what's the question at hand here? Is it to fill this position?
Not
or is
about
it
that.
to-
It's about filling the position, jackass. It's not all about this side drama that you're upset, John Connolly. John's upset, so we got to hold up everything. Look at Lisa looking right at him. I love this woman. She is so friggin' strong. She should be running this board. We got to get her to run again if we can ever get her
figure
to
out
run
what's
again.
going on with the applications.
Oh, basically. And I would be
But
willing to fill the
don't you
position
think
if
it'd
the
be prudent-
CPC would meet and rescind their 411 vote and not to approve any
Dictator. If
any
they
other
don't do what I
obligations.
tell them to do, we're gonna hold up the whole program. Yeah. This guy is such a clown.
Well, with respect, and I can't talk for the committee. I really can't.
We have a couple committee
But
members
it's
here.
not the province,
can't.
it's not the province of this board.
No, it's not.
To tell the committee what to do.
No, it's not.
This board can decide not to fill the position for paid staff, and the consequence will be that it continues not to be.
We want to fill the position, but what's the sense of filling the position if it's not going to move, if the board voted 411 not to fill that, not to go ahead with any applications? So why should, if it's going to take that person a year to get up and running, if we had that same attitude, the same philosophy, the new town administrator. Should we postpone that for a year? That's not fair.
Either someone's not listening or I'm having a very difficult
There we
time
go.
communicating.
She's
It is-
perfect. You're not listening, John. You're purposely not listening. You're being a dick, dude, like you always are. You take things personally because you're a crab. You think you run the town. You think everyone should do what you say. You have no respect. You have no respect for that board, the volunteers who are attorneys. You're a jerk. You do, yeah, not a good jerk, not a young jerk.
Not going to take a year.
That's been said at the meeting. I've said that to you, and you know right well that it was said several times that it's going to take this person a year to get on board.
That is
She's
not a
laughing
correct
at him.
interpretation of what was said or believed. The problem is that the period of time within which to get this person up to speed is out of sync with the calendar requirements for accepting, reviewing, vetting, approving, and making decisions.
And we
on
still haven't been
applications.
notified. Correct.
Lie.
We still
Another
not-
lie.
This board has not been notified.
You're going to
Correct?
get another lie here.
We have not been notified.
This is George Como. This is John Como's brother. He's also on the board that they're talking about. And he's had enough because this John Connolly just lied. He straight out lied. We have not been notified. George contacted them.
Oh, not for a second, George. This board is talking.
Yeah.
This board has not been notified.
This board is
officially.
lying, George. There's no time for a correction. I need to be uninterrupted with my lies, George. You can't speak right now. That's what's going on, right, John Connolly? You can't be corrected on your straight up lies to the public.
In writing or any other ways, by the chairman or any other members of the board in writing.
Writing or
that
he,
you're
notice
not
he
gonna
says
go ahead.
writing because he knows they didn't actually write, and then he says or any other way, which is a lie. That is the lie. Or any other way. What's the most direct way to talk to somebody, to get your message to them? Give them a phone call, right?
We saw the meeting on August 15th, 411 not to do it. That's the only, we have no communication at all.
Whoa, whoa, whoa,
Liar.
whoa, whoa.
Liar.
What was
a
in writing,
liar.
George?
You said communication, Mr. Chairman. You've known me well enough for all these years to know that I called each one of these members after that meeting, and not a single member called me back.
They hear that? George called every single board member after that meeting, and they didn't call him back. So that's a lie, John Connolly.
One member picked up the phone and promised to call me back, but I did not have that ability to communicate. I was the person that was asked to reach out to the Board of Selectmen, and I did it.
Did you put anything in writing?
Did you answer the
Did you
call?
put anything in writing?
Several calls, Mr.
Did you put anything in
Several
writing?
You
calls.
didn't ask for it in writing, and this board doesn't require.
Did you just lie, John Connolly, and say there was no they didn't reach out? Did you just lie when George reached out to you several times?
Writing.
It would,
The board serves under the statute.
it would be the right thing to do to put it, say,
The right thing to do in
The right thing
didn't
to
do
do
it.
is not to lie on video in front of your constituents, John Connolly.
I saw the meeting and that's all I had to see, George. I was on vacation with my family and then you called the second, can I call you back? And you never called me back.
got the calls, Mr.
You never called me a second time.
Members got the calls as well. I called each and every one. Mr. Conley
You get
was
on the
in
microphone?
jail,
Are we going to allow this?
ruling out of order.
Are we going to allow it? Are we going to allow him to correct the
There's
record?
nothing official.
On the issue,
Nothing was official.
Of course, there's nothing official. You don't get official communications from many boards in this town.
Shouldn't he be at the microphone
Yeah.
so people can hear what he's saying?
Mr. Chairman,
George, you should.
You want to, if you,
just finally, on the issue of communication, I think this board is aware that historically, we have had an agenda item for committee reports. And each and every meeting, I have reported on the status of all of the committees on which I served. And I embrace that process and spirit of communication. That agenda item, beginning in June, was taken off the agenda. I actually made a suggestion for another way of communicating about committee reports, and I was advised to wait. So I absolutely concur that we need to communicate fully about what the committees are doing and which we sit, not because in many cases this board has the right to second guess the decision making of a committee. In some cases it may, in some cases it may be a select board appointed committee.
As
CPC
this board is.
It is not.
It's
It is-
appointed by the selectmen.
It is not. It's a
It is.
statutorily
There we go.
created committee where the committee members are chosen, and it's directed by statute by the different stakeholder groups that they represent.
Did you hear that? So by statute, different stakeholders have a say to appoint people on the board. The select board also has a couple seats that they appoint, but John Connolly just again misstated. He said that they appointed all the. He's either so misinformed. Is he drunk? Like I don't get it. How can this guy just make misstatement after misstatement? He's either misinformed and doesn't know what's going on after 30 years on this board, or he's being dishonest. Which is it, John? Because why does Lisa keep having to correct your misstatements? Why? Why does she have to keep correcting you?
The select board does have the right to appoint 2 members of the 9-person
And we have to-
committee.
well-
Absolutely.
Well-
But I embrace the communication. And there's not been any directive about the way that the communication needed to happen. As a courtesy, yes, I asked Mr. Comeau to reach out to every member of this board because I knew I was going to be absent. There was absolutely no intention or attempt to do anything more than transparent once a decision was taken, as evidenced by the reach out of the committee chair to Mr. Scollins. And so somehow to suggest that the committee is doing anything because it has an agenda is just, I hope you don't mean that. I really do.
We're all part of a team here, and
Please, yes.
we just had the pleasure of interviewing 2 great candidates for fire chief, and the terms they used were leadership, teamwork, communication, collaboration. What I'm hearing from the CCP, well, about the CCP people, Mr. Comeau spoke, and you, is excuses. You're not accepting any responsibility for the
This
decisions
guy's a
made.
clown.
That's not leadership.
What
That's
kind
not-
of leadership is you complain, but you didn't return the call? What kind of leadership is losing employees because you don't want to pay them what another competing town, and then you complain and don't fill the position? You're a joke, dude. Thank God you're not. I don't know why you left the board if you didn't run for re-election or what, but I'm glad you're not there anymore. You just, the only time he looks at her is when he throws these barbs at her. You notice this guy, he only looks at her. Look at her. Look at her. And look at Conley. Oh, Conley will look at this guy in the eye. These guys are a bunch of jokes.
Not doing your job.
Not doing your job. You're not doing your job. That's why there's nobody in the position. And then he stops. He looks at the camera, at the audience. This guy is such a clown. What a clown. What a friggin' clown. Clown show. Kenton Clown Show.
There's a few steps missing in Ms.
Yeah, he's
Lopez's
playing a victim. It's so
recount.
fun.
In the August meeting, I was the vote against the pause. I didn't feel it was right.
I'm gonna skip
the
this
minutes
guy. He's
reflect
the
that.
lone
I
dissenter
felt it was
on
a
this
disservice to the town.
non,
Now
this
it appears town council
volunteer
agrees with
board.
that position.
And he kind of goes on and on. I'm starting to run behind, so I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. But he's basically the guy that says, I would have done everything. I would have done all this volunteer work. But I have a feeling he's not very qualified for it. Just the way he talks and acts. He gives me strange vibes. I'll just say that. We'll play a little more of it. And I don't know the guy. I don't know his background. That's just opinion, just from watching this briefly. Don't do with it what you may. I'm not saying anything about his character. He seems like he's invested. He seems like he does care about the town. I'm sure he's a great person.
Do. If I was running my business or running this committee the way I run my business, I would stop asking for reasons why it can't be done and engage in reasons how it can be done. And that is what I think is missing in these discussions in the committee, and that's what I think led to this vote.
I would have asked this
So
guy,
I'll rest
in your
it.
business, do you expect people to work for free for you? Because that's what I don't get. Like, you're asking people to do more than they've already stepped up for. And they're saying, we need someone paid. This needs to be a paid expert position. And you're saying, find another way. Let's do it for free. I don't know, man. If you can't find someone that's wicked qualified to do it for money, I don't know how you can do it for free. You know?
That still today, 4 months after town meeting approved it,
Yeah, this is
are
Leonetti.
still not sent to the applicants. Is that what you're referring to? Public statements that don't get followed up on? Ms. Lopez, the point is one that Mr. Connolly made. I will lead the effort because an illegal vote has been cast. Whether it was done intentionally or not is irrelevant. Whether you were 100%.
See, this is what's funny. This guy is not, I'm guessing he's not an attorney, and he's claiming that an illegal vote took place. I don't think that vote was illegal, dude. I don't think you're qualified to say that, especially when there's other attorneys on the board who are saying, nope, not, and especially when you haven't even heard back from your town legal counsel. And a lot of times, my experience in local towns and cities is the legal counsel will make interpretations and say things aren't legal, but they don't really know either. Like, you know who decides what's legal? Usually the people who write the bills, and then the courts try to interpret what they meant later. So unless you're an attorney who's got experience with the courts on these issues, or you've read the actual law and how it's been decided in the courts, I don't think you know what you're talking about.
Certain of your interpretation of
Yeah, interpretation.
guidelines.
Just what you just
It's
made,
irrelevant.
dude. You just interpreted something, and I don't think I'm going to take your interpretation. I'm just not. Especially when the rest of the board said no, and the rest of the board has lawyers on there who are highly experienced at this.
If town council has determined the vote was illegal, I would ask you as an attorney, what happens next? And if what happens
What ifs?
next,
What ifs?
is the
What
committee-
ifs? What if? What if? What if? What if? What if? What if it doesn't happen, dude? Then you're just wasting everybody's time.
is compelled to take applications, putting aside all the colorful adjectives and characterizations you sent towards me, I'm simply back to the substance of the matter. How can we get the town's work done? And I am offering to do it. Thank you.
Mr. Connolly.
Mr. Chairman, I have two statements. One, I'd love to see the opinion of town council because it will upend every CPA in this Commonwealth. As you may know, I serve on the statewide steering committee appointed to manage.
So this is, again, John Como's brother, George, this is his thing, community preservation. Like, this guy's a geek on it. He knows all about it. He's on the state level. And he's basically telling them, if you really think the town council is going to say it's illegal, then the whole program throughout the state, all the towns are going to be shocked because everybody else, everywhere else is saying this is the way it is. So George comes with facts. They come with what if? What if? What if? What if the what if the tooth fairy came down and gave us $1 million to work on this? Then what would you do? What if?
and support CPAs.
Versus George, who knows what he's talking about.
Very privileged to serve in that capacity. And if the town council's opinion is that we are required to go through this process and actually take applications, it will upend the entire Commonwealth and the CPA program. So I'm eager to see the legal thinking behind that. I will tell you, and you know I'm an attorney, and I'm not rendering this as a municipal opinion, but I'd love to talk to town council about it. And that is, we do have the requirement to report to town meeting, and we do have statutory obligations that are intended to be fulfilled, and were discussed at our meeting last night. So there's no question that's going to happen. the statute is very clear relative to this issue, and there are several communities who do not take applications from year to year for a number of reasons. I have a second opinion from the person in charge of the CPA statewide coalition, which I distributed last night to the committee relative to the legality of skipping or holding off on applications. And the final analysis that we get from our steering committee is that we do have an obligation to set aside 10% of our total revenue for the year in the 3 accounts and appropriate funds for the administrative position and, of course, pay the bond. That is the requirement. All things we have to do. So I really want to see this opinion that requires that we go through this process, because if it's not flawed, it will change how CPA is administered through the Commonwealth. So I welcome this town council opinion. The town council's opinion will be of great interest to the governor's office and to every CPA in which this sits. I ask you tonight to move forward with this position. If you want us to do our job on the CPA, will you do your job and appoint this person that's before you? Let's clear the air a little bit. So much acrimony tonight, of which I'm sure I'm a part of. And so I want you to forgive me for that earlier tonight. But I do want you to know the gravity of putting a person here so that we can move this work forward. I can't assure you there will be applications this year, but I can assure you that we will work in all due diligence to bring this person on, bring them up to speed, and get this person in a place that this community can move these applications forward in a meaningful way. We have a great program. There's 25 projects out there that are still out there spinning, that we have no control over and understand how much money is being spent or what the cash flow looks like so that we can prepare for the next round. There is no secret project. There's no, you've known me long enough. I'm a straight shooter.
And I respect that. I had to ask the question
and I wanna answer
my
it, too.
colleagues have the big bang for next year.
I want to, because
I had to ask.
because 2 years worth of funding. One of the things that was in the CPA surveys that we received back from more than 1,000 of your constituents in this community, one of the things they said that they liked are the big projects. They love Paul Revere Heritage. They love the work that's gone on in the fields. They love these playgrounds. But there's just not enough money, as is exhibited through the pickleball, to finish a program. That was a great idea, and people still want it. People say, where can we put this court? How much more will it cost? Next year's round for funding will be incredibly meaningful for this community. I can assure you that. The size of the projects that can be funded at almost 100% will be incredibly important for this community. But there's projects right now that everybody's clamoring on that haven't even hit the dirt. And the question is that there's more. I too have received calls from people who have said it's prudent to wait, given all the things that we're saying. So there are no hidden projects. There's no big thing in the wind, but I hope there is a big thing in the wind, and I hope we get to fund it. So would you please tonight fill this position? Would you please consider that? Because it's just 2 or 3 more weeks of spinning our heels and creating acrimony. It'll go a long way towards healing what's happening here. I can assure you we'll all work better together if we've got a person and we can get behind that person. It's in your power tonight to begin that process. If you want to wait and bring the chairs in and keep working with town council and figuring out who did what, when, and where, that's fine too. But I'm just asking if you'll do your part, and we'll go back and figure out how to do ours. Thank you.
Positions, but once again, I disagree. The Paul Revere Heritage was a large project. If large projects are sought in the town, they can be bonded, the way the Paul Revere Heritage Project was bonded. And for those watching who don't know, effectively 10 years of funds were borrowed against to fund that project. The second largest project after Paul Revere was the Little Red Barn. That was just around $1 million. That was able to be funded over a period of years, consecutive $450,000 grants. So the CPA is able to do large projects without having to hoard the cash. And I'm personally disappointed that Mr. Camo has characterized the back and forth of a legal opinion from town council and trivialized it.
You know what, dude? Nobody cares about that you're personally anything. I don't care about what you personally feel, dude. And especially when George Como got up, it told the truth. The fact is, other towns do it. Other towns don't give grants every year. So you're full of it. George Como knows what he's talking about. You're full of it. You're full of crap. And you're personally upset. I don't care you're personally upset. I don't know who you are, but I'm just being honest here.
When this was the very subject matter and a motion that was approved at last night's meeting to seek out the answer for. I think the problem is, a lot of the problem the committee has. They don't like the answers they're getting. Town council has spoken.
I'm going to move ahead a
Or
little
if the
bit.
committee is
Mr. Leonetti again. You may even hear from the public. I'm fine with that. We all serve at the pleasure of the public, but this is very painful.
It is.
Very, for all of us.
Lisa,
So could you
I'm
just
sorry,
move
It
it
is.
forward?
You're absolutely right.
Can you move it forward so we can begin untangling this and get the people's work done?
But you're willing to have an open mind.
What's it
I'm
gonna take to
of
get the
course
people?
willing to
what's-
have an
what's-
open,
what
that's a
is-
great, you know me.
And I just want.
But I gotta tell you, it really hurt when nobody would return the calls. I have called each one of you over the years. I spoke with Mr. Theodore plainly, told him exactly what was going on, and he asked questions, very important questions, and I said I'd get back, and he got back, we had a dialogue. But where's the respect from the other members? I know you personally, we're neighbors, we're friends, no calls. You heard one side of the story and had already made the decision. That's the pain, but I can get through that. I can get over that. We all have to do the work, and we're all friends, and we'll move through that. But could you make a decision this evening?
This is what's great right here. George is not he's not going to take it personally. Unlike these other guys, you could see everything about them is personal. George just wants to move it forward. He doesn't give a shit about all the bullshit that's gone back and forth. He just wants to move forward.
Would you be willing to readdress the accepting of the applications this year? Would that?
I certainly want to hear what this legal opinion is, absolutely.
But would
Absolutely.
you would be willing to readdress it to sit there and say, yeah, maybe if we have the staff on, that we should not make that, but readdress it
We'll
and then.
bring it back for a vote.
Bring
And-
it, I'm willing to participate in a discussion. Again, I'm one committee member. There are 9 committee members, and you're hearing the point of view of one member, and there are 8 others. And so,
No, yeah, that's right. There's 3 of us here tonight.
correct, I'm sorry. In terms of a position taken,
Mr. Leonetti made a lot of sense. If we're going to delay projects, why wouldn't we have, if nothing's going to go through in a year, doesn't that give us another year to put something in there?
He's correct in that sense, but there's a tremendous amount of accounting that has to be put to us. There's an understanding of what project monies are coming back, and we need to get out the contract and the letters that, as Mr. Lanier said, were written weeks ago, and that's true. I'm the one who wrote them and forwarded them to the chair. I dare say when we leave tonight, none of you are going to take home work where you have to write the letters and do the work. You have a staff. You have people who are supporting you. We're asking for that part-time person to begin working with us, to train that person. And we arrived at the same idea at the same time relative to Kristen, asking, we don't even know if she's willing to do it. It's sort of a shot in the dark. Can she help us onboard this person? But it makes total sense. If you get the right price and you can go through the procurement and the consultancy works for our town finance director, I think that's the perfect path. But give us an opportunity. Start the work. Don't delay it another week or 2 or whatever, because you're just going to hear this whole thing again.
I just want, one other question, George, is if we put this person on and basically
Someone said, what's the purpose of this tonight, showing this tonight? The reason we're showing this is because John Connolly, who was leading this meeting back in 2022, is running for re-election. And I think people should see the way he's acted in office, to see that he takes things personally. And somewhere during this meeting, it's funny how in the beginning, he said there was no communication. Well, Como's up there saying, I called you all. And then he said, well, I was on vacation. And then he says, well, you didn't call me back. And Como says, I called you multiple times. And then later he says, I didn't call you back because I was so mad and I was afraid of what I might say to you. Do you think an elected official, and then he makes a big deal out of it and lies and says, no one ever try to reach out to us. I mean, this is childish. This is what children do. I can't talk to you because I'm mad, but I'm also mad because you guys didn't reach out, even though you did call me several times. I mean, it's dishonest. He's not being honest. And he's not doing his job. And he's not moving forward with what needs to happen for the town because he's upset. I think people need to see that. I think that's why I'm playing this tonight. I think people need to know what's been going on in their town and whether Mr. Connolly needs to be reelected. I don't think he does. I think that this Susan Harrington would be way better. That's why I'm playing this tonight.
You don't give her the applications to go through the learning process, then doesn't that,
We drafted 11-point onboarding project, which we're beginning to put in Gantt charts. Fortunately, Mr. Leonetti, who has been helpful in those regards in terms of helping us with the business aspects of what we should be thinking. So we're working towards understanding what this person is going to do when they're onboarding, create the meetings that person has to do, and
Yes.
we created an
He's the chair of the
short-term
middle, John Connolly.
objectives for this person, the most important of which is preparing the draft articles for town meeting, whether we have applications or not. So the work has to be done no matter what. If this person isn't just going to be sitting there for 6 months. And frankly, let's assume we don't take applications. We may very well start the application project much earlier next year, given the fact that the amount of work that has to go into creating these applications, and you created one, you know what it takes to put those in. If those numbers are wrong, we bring those numbers to town meeting, you wind up having a project much like what happened at the Kennedy School. It's going to sit there and languish. If that's what you want, we can do it. I don't think it's right. I don't think it's right to put projects in front of town meeting that aren't ready. And that has happened a couple of times. And it's at real risk this year because they only have a couple weeks to do the pre-apps and maybe 5 or 6 weeks to get to the full application before Thanksgiving or whatever the number is. So do you really want applications that are half-baked that can't actually get to the shovels? I don't know. Maybe we'll just open it up and you'll see. But we're not going to bring them before town meeting if they're not ready. First step is, let's move the question. If you don't want to do it tonight, then we'll come back again next week. I'm in Canada next week. It won't be me, so you won't have to hear from me again. That's a plus.
No. What's the will of the board? What's the board want to do?
I'm willing to take them on their word that they're going to try and do their job if the person was appointed. I don't want to not do our job if we're holding back the committee, but I understand both sides that, if the person's essentially teachable, but not ideal, I mean, if you're not going to take applications for the next year, then
I
what's the
can't say
point?
that won't happen, but I will tell you.
I think
to
we
keep
should
an
let you do
open
your
mind.
job, like you said. Let me finish?
Yeah, of course.
Like you said, you
no,
want to do your job, so if that means having an administrative assistant, and Mr. Leonetti's volunteered to help onboard and mentor, then, the ball will be in your court to try and do your job. So I'm in favor of appointing the person.
I agree with Chris. I think delaying is not going to accomplish anything. Let's go forward with the appointment and readdress the application fee and then move on. At least we're in the right direction instead of just sitting in limbo.
And I don't want to, I want to keep it moving as much as possible, and I take you at your word. I take you at your word. And John, I know you want to help, and I saw that in the meeting, and that's why I was just very disappointed in the meeting of August 15th. And I didn't call you because I would have said something I would have regretted. And I wanted to talk to talk to our representative first, which I did.
So here's the real truth, right? First, he said it was because he was on vacation. Right? And then he said, oh, you didn't call me back. And now he's got a news story. The news story is that he didn't call him back because he was so mad that he's afraid what he might say. Is this someone that should be leading in your town? No. No. And then he was dishonest and said that nobody reached out from the board when George Como called him. And George is awesome. I mean, watching George and Lisa, these are exactly the people you want in your town working on community preservation and town business. These other jokers are exactly who you don't want. The only one, as far as I can see on that board, besides Lisa Lopez, is Tom Theodore. Now, Trish Boyden replaced Tom Theodore on the select board, but he's the only one that seemed to be showing any leadership on this board that night. And this goes back to 2022. We're replaying this. Now, LTL Media is going to be on in a couple minutes with Only Nan. So if you want to check that out, jump over there now. We're going to redirect in a few minutes as soon as this is over.
And I know she had talked to you, I can tell that, so that's fine. And I could say, and I don't want to put Mr. Scollins on the spot, but if there's, needs help, if we can move it along, and like, and I'll say it in a layman's term, meaning me, if there's something like an account temps that we can hire to help them, that's something I, as chairman, and this board would say, can you find somebody that can help them crunch the numbers?
Account
That's probably
temps.
the most difficult thing I can imagine, if that's the fact. And if that's willing to look at, I'm not saying it can be done, but you know better than I would. And I'm not asking your staff to do it because, as I said earlier, we asked the DPW to do everything. Everything, a lot of things get stumped in you as well. So if you can maybe, find a retired buddy from Foxborough or Rentham or somewhere, and maybe that could help smooth it out for this year until, and I met Allison, and she's a wonderful person. I had sat down with her, I talked to her, and I was generally liked her. And, and she's, her education, she can do the job, in my opinion. So that's my opinion.
Mr. Chairman, I just respond to one thing you said, because I think it was you who said, you don't need the best administrator, you need a person that you can train and bring up to speed. And that's by default what we found. I know that you and Mr. Aspinall had a very different opinion relative to what we, the board, felt we needed, but you're the appointing authority, so you get that role. That's what you've got before you. You've got a person that we can train and bring along, and we will keep open minds. We're meeting again in 2 weeks, 3 weeks. We'll talk to the chairs and try to accelerate things.
And Mr. Leonetti's offer, I would assume the committee would seize upon.
Can't speak for the committee,
But
but
you just- yeah.
for me, we've worked somewhat successfully together in the past, not always, but certainly.
Thank you. Mr. Lochran?
True.
So, Mr. Pope, you mentioned that you haven't seen any applications to date.
No. Nobody has said that they intended to put applications before us based on the representation of the three historical, on those representatives, schools, et cetera. Nobody has said they intended.
So as early as June, it was being discussed that we might not take applications. We haven't done any advertising saying we're accepting applications.
Right,
So
we would have done that.
those members that schools haven't submitted anything because they're operating under the assumption that you don't want to take them.
No, it's not a question of not want to.
Well, that you're choosing not to take them.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, that's possible.
So it's been asked, would you reconsider? And Ms. Lopez, would you reconsider? So what steps are you going to do to demonstrate that you'll reconsider? So if we approve this person tonight, are you going to meet with community preservation relatively quickly? Because I know you were talking about the schedule that if you get a pre-app and the application is not, you've only got 5 weeks or so. But that's kind of a self-imposed schedule, and I certainly understand because it's
Well,
the
you were
warrant
on
and
the
everything.
committee. I'm sorry to interrupt, but you were on the committee. You knew and know, and Mr. Theodore knows, the time commitment, both required by the applicant, but by the committee to fetter those out and then to get into January and make the numbers work for town meeting.
Yep.
Can that happen? I hope so. You asked me to keep an open mind. That's all I can pledge tonight.
I mean, even if it's a few applications, like a couple of simple ones,
But
like,
if you open the door, they're all going to come in,
Yeah.
right? So you know what that's going to be
Yeah.
like, right? If that's what happens, but if they're not fully baked, We're not going to help them along to that point to make them baked. The numbers have to
And that I
work.
support.
You have to support that.
Absolutely, but there
Have
are
examples.
organizations that have submitted applications in the past, and this is old hat for them.
They
They,
own the land, they get the town, there's a lot that goes into those applications for town-owned property.
Yep.
Versus, there are very few athletic applications for open space or for recreation that don't impact the town, requiring the town to do affirmative sign-off on those applications and due diligence. As you know, that takes time. And in at least 2 cases and maybe more, that money has to now come back. And maybe, again, maybe the issue is that you know of applications that are fighting to get in. I've asked directly, haven't heard anybody said, oh, I've got a group that definitely wants to put one in. So there may not be applications, which is fine too. But more importantly, as we leave tonight, I'd love to see that town council opinion, because again, on my other role with the state, this would upend CPAs across the Commonwealth.
He started a
I'd like
little
to share that with
jab
the
at him.
state.
He's basically
that would be
saying,
very helpful.
you guys must be smarter than everyone else in the state, all the experts. You guys must know your stuff, huh? Because you're going to change the law right here. This nice little jab George put in there.
That'd be great. I'd appreciate that. So yes, keep an open mind and work with all due diligence if you can appoint a person this evening.
Mr. Leonetti?
Each year of the last few years, at least that I've served, there have been more applications than there happen. If this committee isn't meeting again until October 4th, whole suggestions that there won't be because there aren't today is ridiculous. The question is, when are they going to be invited to put in applications if, in fact, town council's opinion is correct? And this is, oddly enough, the argument I was making in July and August.
One
Thank
quick
you.
question, I'm sorry, Mr. Lane, one quick question. Can the deadline be extended?
Yeah, we developed this application so that we could work through November and December with the applicants and get them before us. And so I think that's actually what's going to happen. I've been on this committee for 10 years. I think I do know what I'm talking about.
I
and
think he
there's no
does.
disrespect to anybody else.
Yeah.
So honestly, and it sounds glib, it's not the intent.
But it's the
The chair's
truth.
coming next week really doesn't fulfill anything because the committee's still going to have to get back together as a committee. Moving this forward tonight will send a strong message to the rest of the commissioners relative to what the interests of the Board of Selectmen are, acknowledging that there's a separate statutory relationship. But if you're doing your work and we're doing our work, there is a sense with an open mind that we can move this forward. If you want to hear all this again next week, again, be my guest. I just don't know what's gained from it. I give you my word to keep an open mind. I've never gone back on that word. Does that mean I'll change my vote? It does mean that I would bring it up and ask for them to move to change the vote, and I very well may change my mind. If we can come up with a program that fits and is respectful to town meeting where the numbers work. That's all we care about. But this has really been painful. I'd just like to close this off.
Mr. Collins, do you have something, sir?
Mr. Chair, just a point of information. It's actually very timely for a communication that I'm sending out this week. Was going to be sending it out on Monday, but it was a little delayed, so I'll be sending it out tomorrow. And that's the annual capital memo to all of the departments and agencies. And within that first memo, it includes the draft milestone timeline for the entire budget process, including CPA for the year, and includes the pre-application form for the CPA applications and the dates, et cetera. So based on the last communique I had with one of the co-chairs of CPA, I was instructed to announce that applications, would be not be received this year, but they still had a process to go through to maintain the meeting with the FinCom.
And that's the end of the video. I'm not sure what happened. That's the wild part. That is it. Like, we don't even get to see the vote. I don't know if Canton Community cut off the video. They ran out of juice that night. But, gee, that was an informative meeting. You know, because it shows you who John Connolly really is. It's all about John. It's all about John. Brian S., I want to thank you so much. He sent $50 last night. He said, I greatly respect and appreciate your coverage of the Karen Reed case. Thank you so much, Brian S. He sent that on the Venmo. I just want to make sure I thanked him. I'm not sure if I did. Also, Only Nan. She got me last night again with like the major donation that just blew me away. Right when I'm trying to end my show, I couldn't even speak. It was like, she's done it twice now, and it just... it's crazy. Thank you so much. Crazy love. I really appreciate her. She's on right now, I believe, with Brian from LTL Media. Only Nan Gallagher, attorney Nan Gallagher. They're going to be talking about Enrique tonight. They're going to be talking about Karen Reed case and some other things. We're going to redirect you right now as soon as I get off the air, as soon as we end this broadcast. So go check that out. Please let's do a Young Jerks raid. I'll be over there watching it. I'll see you in the chat. Let's do a Jerks raid chat right now for LTL Media. I want to thank again to Elise for posted this video in the Canton community group. If there's any citizens that want me to air more old select board meetings where John Connolly has acted up, hit me up. Drop me the link. Let me know. Let me know which ones I should be looking at. I really appreciate it because this is great content. I love doing this. I love helping educate the voters of Canton. You have a choice. You have a choice coming up in March. You can reelect John Connolly for more of this malarkey, more of this, oh, you upset me, I can't return your call, I'm going to lie about it at a public meeting. I'm going to be dishonest about it. I'm going to have 3 different answers, and then I'll finally tell the truth at the end. That's what John did at this meeting. And he was not nice to Lisa Lopez, who's awesome. Or you can elect an experienced vet, a veterinarian, Susan Harrington. I know who I would vote for. I would be voting for Susan Harrington if I was a resident of the town of Canton. All right, have a great night, everyone. Thank you, everybody, for the super chats. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you. Very, very appreciate the super chats tonight and all the people in the chat. We'll see you. Yeah, vote, vote, vote. Vote in Canton. And we'll see you very soon, hopefully, in the chat for the LTL Media. The interview right now with attorney Nan Gallagher. I'll see you over there. Have a great night, everyone. Oh, and the other thing, tomorrow night, we get to see John Connolly live and in the flesh on Zoom. They're doing a Zoom Canton Select Board meeting. Tomorrow night, we'll be broadcasting that at 7 p.m. On Wednesday night, I got Video Jesus. She's going to be breaking down the Sally Port video. She is amazing, Abby. I can't wait to have her on the show. Wednesday night, be here, 6:30. We'll see you there. And Thursday night, Mazda Media doing a big Karen Reed fundraiser Super Bowl show. He's going to be talking about the Super Bowl while doing a fundraiser with for Karen Reed. And we know our buddy Joe's going to be there. He's rooting for the Eagles. Check that out on Thursday night as well. I'll see everybody over at the LTL Media right now. See you there.